Mike Tyson stood in a hallway and waited. It wasn't a long hallway, just a corridor in a hotel or an arena or some building where events like this happened. The kind of place with fluorescent lights and beige walls and the hum of air conditioning that never quite goes away. He had been in 1,000 places like this. Locker rooms, press areas, back entrances. But this time felt different. Because on the other side of the door at the end of the hallway was Muhammad Ali, and Tyson, for all his power and all his accomplishments and all the fear he had instilled in every opponent he had ever faced, felt something he rarely felt: nervousness. Not the nervous energy before a fight. Not the adrenaline that makes your hands shake and your heart race. This was quieter, deeper. The kind of nervousness that comes when you're about to meet someone you've spent your entire life looking up to. Someone who existed in your mind not as a person but as an idea. A standard. A measuring stick against which you judged yourself without even realizing it. Tyson had been told Ali wanted to meet him. Someone from Ali's camp had reached out. Made the connection. Set it up. And Tyson had said yes immediately. Of course he said yes. This was Muhammad Ali. The greatest. The man who had transcended boxing. Who had become something larger than the sport itself. Tyson had watched his fights on film as a kid. Had studied his movement. His footwork. His ability to make fighting look like art. Tomato had shown him tapes. Had pointed out details. Had used Ali as an example of what greatness could look like when combined with intelligence and charisma and belief. But Cus had also said something else. Something Tyson had never fully understood until now, standing in this hallway waiting. Cus had said that Ali wasn't just great because of what he did in the ring. He was great because of what he represented outside of it. Because he stood for something. Fought for something beyond titles and money and legacy. And that standing for something, that willingness to sacrifice and risk everything for a principle, was what separated legends from champions. Tyson hadn't thought much about that at the time. He was young. Focused. All that mattered was becoming the best fighter in the world, winning, dominating, making people understand that when Mike Tyson stepped into a ring, the fight was already over. And he had done that. He was the youngest heavyweight champion in history, undefeated, unstoppable. He had everything a fighter could want, but standing in that hallway, waiting to meet Ali, he felt something he couldn't name. A sense that maybe somewhere along the way he had missed something. Not in his training. Not in his preparation. But in understanding what it meant to be more than just a fighter. The door opened. A man stepped out. One of Ali's people. He nodded at Tyson. He's ready. Tyson walked forward. His hands were at his sides. His shoulders were tense. He told himself to relax. Told himself this was just a meeting. Just two fighters talking. But it didn't feel like just anything. It felt important. And he couldn't quite explain why. He stepped through the door. The room was small. A few chairs. A table. Soft lighting. And in the center of the room, sitting in a chair with his hands resting on his knees, was Muhammad Ali. Tyson stopped. He had seen Ali in photographs. In videos, in interviews. But seeing him in person was different. Ali was older now. His face was softer. His body was still large, still powerful in its frame, but there was a stillness to him that Tyson hadn't expected. He wasn't moving. Wasn't talking. Just sitting there with his eyes calm and his breathing slow and steady. Ali looked up. And when their eyes met, Tyson felt something shift in his chest. Ali smiled. Not a big smile. Not the brash, confident grin from the old fight posters. Just a small, warm smile. The kind of smile that said, I see you. I know who you are. And I'm glad you're here. Tyson walked forward. He didn't know what to say. Didn't know if he should shake Ali's hand or wait for him to stand or what the protocol was for meeting someone like this. But Ali made it easy. He extended his hand. Slowly, deliberately. And Tyson took it. The handshake was firm but not forceful. Ali's hand was large. Tyson had expected that. But what he hadn't expected was the gentleness. The patience. The way Ali held the handshake for just a moment longer than necessary, like he was transferring something. Not strength. Not power. But presence. Mike Tyson, Ali said. His voice was softer than Tyson remembered from the old interviews. Quieter. But it still carried weight. Still had that unmistakable cadence. The baddest man on the planet. Tyson tried to smile. Tried to respond with something clever or respectful or meaningful. But all he managed was, it's an honor, champ. Ali nodded. He gestured to a chair across from him. Sit. Tyson sat. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Tyson looked at Ali and Ali looked back, and the silence between them wasn't uncomfortable. It was just there. A space where words weren't necessary yet. Ali's hands moved slowly. He reached for a glass of water on the table beside him. Lifted it. Took a sip. His movements were deliberate, measured. Not the quick, sharp movements Tyson associated with fighters. But something slower. More intentional. Tyson watched. And as he watched, he realized something. Ali wasn't the same man he had seen in those old fights. Wasn't the fast-talking, quick-moving, untouchable figure who had danced around opponents and made boxing look like poetry. That version of Ali was gone. Or maybe not gone. Maybe just transformed. Changed into something quieter. Something that didn't need to prove itself anymore. "You're doing good," Ali said after a moment. "Real good. Knocking everybody out." Tyson nodded. "Trying to." "You don't have to try," Ali said. "You just do it. That's a gift." Tyson didn't know how to respond to that. He had been called a lot of things. Dangerous, explosive, intimidating. But gift felt different. It felt like something more than just physical ability. Like Ali was acknowledging something deeper. "Cuz taught you well," Ali continued. His voice was steady, but there were pauses between his words. Small gaps where he seemed to be gathering his thoughts. Not struggling. Just taking his time. He was a smart man. Knew the game. Knew what it took. "He talked about you," Tyson said. "A lot. Showed me your fights. Said you were the greatest." Ali smiled again. That same small, warm smile. "I said I was the greatest. Didn't mean it was true. Just meant I believed it. And when you believe something loud enough, long enough, people start to believe it too." Tyson looked down at his hands. His knuckles were scarred, calloused. The hands of someone who had spent his entire life hitting things. Ali's hands were resting on his knees, relaxed, open. The hands of someone who had nothing left to prove. "I watch your fights," Ali said. "You're scary, fast, strong, you got that thing. That thing that makes people afraid before the bell even rings." Tyson looked up. "You had it too." Ali shook his head slowly. "I had something different. I had a mouth. I talked. Made people think about me before they thought about the fight. Made them mad. Made them want to shut me up. And then when they got in the ring, they were already fighting angry. And angry fighters make mistakes." Tyson nodded. He understood that. He had seen it in his own opponents. The ones who came in trying to prove something. Trying to be the one who finally stopped Mike Tyson. They fought emotional. Reckless. And they lost. "But you," Ali continued. "You don't need to talk. You just look at them. And they know. That's power. Real power." There was a pause. Ali took another sip of water. His hand moved slowly back to his knee, and Tyson felt it again. That sense that something was missing. Not in Ali, in himself. "Cus used to tell me," Tyson said quietly, "that being a great fighter wasn't enough. That I had to stand for something. Be something more than just wins and knockouts." Ali's eyes focused on him. Really focused. And for the first time in the conversation, Tyson felt like Ali was seeing all the way through him. Seeing past the undefeated record and the championships and the reputation. Seeing the kid from Brownsville who had been angry and lost and desperate for something to hold on to. "He was right," Ali said. "Fighting is what you do. But it's not who you are. Not if you don't want it to be." Tyson swallowed. His throat felt tight. "What if that's all I know?" Ali leaned back in his chair. His movements were slow but not weak. Just patient. Like he had all the time in the world and wasn't in any hurry to get anywhere. "Then you learn," Ali said. "You figure out what matters. What you believe. What you're willing to lose for. Because if all you got is the ring, then when the ring is gone, what's left?" Tyson didn't answer. Because he didn't know. He had never thought about it. The ring was everything. The fights. The wins. The dominance. That was who he was. That was all he had ever been. But sitting across from Ali, seeing the way he moved and the way he spoke and the way he existed in this quiet, unhurried space, Tyson understood something. Ali had lost his speed. Had lost the quick hands and the fast feet and the ability to dance around opponents and make them look foolish. But he hadn't lost himself. Hadn't lost the thing that made him Ali. The presence. The belief. The certainty that he was more than just what he could do in a ring. And Tyson realized sitting there that he didn't have that. Didn't have the thing that existed outside the fights. The thing that would remain when the punches stopped landing and the crowd stopped roaring and the opponents stopped falling. He had power. He had fear. He had dominance. But he didn't have what Ali had, and maybe he never would. I wanted to be like you, Tyson said. The words came out before he could stop them. Vulnerable, honest. Growing up. Watching you. I wanted to be that. To mean something like you meant something. Ali looked at him for a long moment. And then he did something Tyson didn't expect. He reached across the space between them and put his hand on Tyson's shoulder. The touch was gentle, fatherly, and it made Tyson's chest tighten in a way he hadn't felt in years. You're not me, Ali said quietly. And you don't need to be. You're Mike Tyson, that's enough. But you gotta figure out what that means. Not just in the ring. Out here. Where it's harder. Tyson nodded. He didn't trust himself to speak. Ali's hand stayed on his shoulder for a moment longer. And then he leaned back. Picked up his glass of water. Took another slow sip. They sat in silence for a while after that. Not an awkward silence. Just two men in a room. One who had been everything and was learning how to be something else. And one who was everything now but didn't know what came next. Eventually, Tyson stood. Ali stood too. Slower. More carefully. But he stood. And they shook hands again. That same firm, patient handshake. Keep fighting, Ali said. But don't forget to live. Tyson nodded. He turned and walked toward the door. And as he reached for the handle, Ali spoke again. Mike. Tyson turned. Ali was standing there in the middle of the room. Still. Calm. Present. You're going to be great, Ali said. Just make sure you know what great means. Tyson held his gaze for a moment. And then he nodded. Opened the door. And walked out. The hallway felt longer on the way back. Tyson walked slowly. His mind was turning over everything Ali had said. Everything he hadn't said. The way he moved. The way he existed. The way he seemed so at peace with who he was, even though the thing that had defined him, his ability to fight, was fading. Tyson thought about his own life. The training. The fights. The wins. The fear he instilled. The power he wielded. And he wondered, for the first time, what would be left when that was gone. When his body slowed and his reflexes faded and he could no longer step into a ring and make men afraid, would there be anything? Would he be anyone? Ali had found something. Something beyond the titles and the fame and the ability to do what no one else could do. He had found a way to be more than just a fighter. To stand for something. To mean something. Even now. Even when his hands moved slowly and his voice was quieter and his body didn't obey the way it used to. Tyson didn't have that. And he knew it. Standing in that room with Ali, he had felt it. The absence of something he couldn't name. The realization that all his strength and all his dominance and all his power were enough to win fights. But not enough to build a legacy that mattered beyond them. He had met his idol. Had shaken his hand. Had heard his voice. And instead of feeling inspired or validated or complete, he felt something else. He felt aware. Aware that there was a difference between being the best and being great. Between dominating and mattering. Between winning and leaving something behind. Ali had done both. Tyson, standing in that hallway, wasn't sure he knew how. Years later, long after that meeting, Tyson would think about it often. About the way Ali moved. The way he spoke. The way he seemed so certain of who he was even when his body was betraying him. And Tyson would understand, in a way he hadn't understood in that moment, that Ali's greatness wasn't in the fights he won. It was in the way he carried himself when the fights were over. The way he stood for something. Believed in something. Was willing to lose everything for something that mattered more than winning. Tyson had the power. But Ali had the presence. And presence, Tyson would learn, was the thing that lasted. The thing that remained when everything else faded. He walked out of the building that day as the baddest man on the planet. Undefeated. Unstoppable. The youngest heavyweight champion in history. But he walked out knowing something he hadn't known when he walked in. Being the best fighter in the world wasn't the same as being great. And all the knockouts in the world couldn't fill the space where meaning was supposed to be. Muhammad Ali had shown him that. Not with words. Not with advice. Just by being who he was. Sitting in a chair. Moving slowly. Speaking quietly. And somehow even diminished, even changed, still being larger than life. Tyson had met his hero. And his hero had shown him, without saying it directly, that something was missing. Not in Ali, in him. And that realization, more than any punch he ever threw or took, would stay with him for the rest of his life. You've met someone like that. Someone you admired. Someone you built up in your mind as the standard. The person you wanted to be, or the thing you wanted to accomplish, or the life you wanted to live. And when you finally met them, when you finally got close enough to see them as they actually were, you realized something: they weren't what you expected. Not because they disappointed you, but because they showed you something you hadn't been ready to see. That the thing you admired wasn't just their success or their talent or their achievements. It was something deeper. Something that existed beyond the measurable. Beyond the wins and the accolades and the external validation. It was presence. It was belief. It was the ability to be more than just what they did. To stand for something. To mean something. Even when the thing that made them famous or successful or admired was gone, Mike Tyson met Muhammad Ali and felt the difference between power and presence. Between dominating and mattering. Between being the best and being great, and maybe you felt it too. Standing in front of someone you respected and realizing that they had something you didn't. Not skill, not talent, but a kind of wholeness. A kind of certainty about who they were that didn't depend on what they could do. And in that moment you understood. That all your accomplishments, all your wins, all your strength were enough to get you where you were. But not enough to get you where you wanted to be. Not enough to fill the space where meaning was supposed to exist. Tyson had power. He could break men with his fists. Could make them afraid with a look. Could dominate a sport in a way few ever had. But Ali, even diminished, even slowed, had something Tyson didn't. He had a reason. A purpose. A belief that existed beyond the ring and would outlast his body. And Tyson knew it. Sitting across from him. Watching him move. Listening to him speak. He knew that something was missing. And he didn't know how to find it. That's the hardest realization. Not that you're not good enough. But that being good enough isn't sufficient. That the thing you've built your entire life around, the skill, the talent, the dominance, is just one part of a much larger equation. And without the other parts, without the meaning and the purpose and the belief, all you have is wins. And wins eventually run out. Ali understood that. He had lived it. Had sacrificed for it. Had lost years of his career standing for something bigger than boxing. And because of that, when his body slowed and his hands shook and his voice quieted, he was still Ali, still the greatest. Not because of what he had done, but because of what he represented. Tyson met him and understood, for the first time, that he didn't have that. That he was Mike Tyson, the fighter. The destroyer. The youngest champion. But he wasn't Mike Tyson, the symbol. The belief. The thing that would matter when the fights were over. And that awareness, that recognition of what was missing, stayed with him. Haunted him. Because once you see the gap, you can't unsee it. Once you understand that strength alone isn't enough, you can't go back to believing it is. Muhammad Ali sat in that chair and showed Mike Tyson what greatness looked like when it wasn't about fighting anymore. When it was about being, about presence, about meaning. And Tyson walked out of that room as the baddest man on the planet. But he walked out knowing that bad wasn't the same as great. And that all the power in the world couldn't fill the space where something bigger was supposed to be. He met his hero. And his hero, without saying it directly, showed him what he was missing. Not disappointment. Just awareness. And awareness, once it arrives, doesn't leave.